Hey kids, welcome back. This episode of Smith Motor Works, we're back to talking about two-wheelers again, and we're going to check out what first glance looks like an Indian, but it's really not. And it's still a cool bike regardless, and I want you to check it out because it's definitely about daring to be different. So hang with me for a little bit here. We'll talk about my 2000 Kawasaki Drifter. Let's go. All right, let's take a walk around this whole thing. Okay, I think what we'll do is try to break down what this thing is, what this thing isn't, maybe what I've changed on it, and kind of a little bit of how Kawasaki got to where they did with this machine, because it's pretty unique, and this was not something easy for them to do legally, really. I mean, practically it was a stroke of genius for product development, really. They took what they had and they made something that was pretty amazing. They kind of turned what they had that they knew was a success and kind of morphed it into something that had a different appeal, and a lot of the establishment didn't really like that. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But for right now, this is a 2000 Kawasaki Drifter, as I mentioned, and there are two models of this Drifter. There is the 800, which is what we're looking at here, and then there's the 1500. And these are already based on the Vulcan that Kawasaki had perfected over a long time. The cool thing about the 800 and what made me choose to buy it over the 1500, which, bigger is better kind of thing. The 800 has kind of a fake hardtail. It's really hard to see with the saddlebags and stuff on here, but these black tubes that are going down in the back here, that's actually a swing arm, and there's a suspension underneath the bike. I mean, a lot like what Harley did with their Softail, but it's not a copy at all. I mean, they did their own thing, and good for them. I mean, I'm not gonna say where it's better or worse. This thing rides really good, but the cool thing is, don't have any suspension exposed on here, and it looks like an old hardtail, which is the whole idea behind the Harley Softail, right? But I mean, you can see there's this continuous flow from this right here. The seat bracket kind of hides the junction, and then there you go, back into the dropout in the rear for the rear wheel. It's pretty cool. The 1500, which would be a lot more fun, it has a more of a conventional swing arm frame where you got coilovers in the back, and it's very cool. It's a good looking bike, and it has the same kind of retro styling, but it just doesn't pull it off as well, I think, as this bike does. I mean, this was really based on a 41 Scout, Indian Scout, and in fact, this was, I think, the first year in the U.S. for this model, first or second, but it was the last year for the kind of blackout treatment that it had, because there was only 2 colors offered too. That was kind of unique. One of the colors was, I guess, popular at the time, but not popular with me. There was kind of a bronzish color, kind of a 80s, 90s kind of thing. I mean, again, this is 99, 2000. I didn't like it, but this light blue like this, and I like bright colors. I mean, I'm an 80s guy, so I dig that. And this was really 41 Scout blue, and the whole 41 thing kind of carried through. If you see, there's not a whole lot of chrome on this. I mean, you got the exhaust, and the wheels were chrome at one time, and I have kind of blacked them out with limited success, because that's what a 41 Scout would have had. But in 2001, I think, they went to chrome. And, that was probably by popular demand, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe, the marketing guys said, we're losing market share to Harley or Honda or whoever that has a bunch of chrome on it. But, I mean, this is kind of the theme. They made it look like a 41 Scout. And they did a really good job of it. And I will say that because I don't think they copied it. They just kind of made a tribute to it. You can argue with me in the comments about that. I'm a big Kawasaki fan. I like every brand, really. Of the big 4, Kawasaki, that was my first real motorcycle that I had. I mean, can't really count my Gorelli Rally Sport moped, but, I had a KX90, and I had many other Kawasaki's. I had plenty of Hondas, too. Honda's great. Love Honda. They can do anything. Old man, Soichiro Honda, it's kind of like the Japanese Henry Ford. I mean, they built everything. But Kawasaki always seemed to kind of find a way to make a performance version of something that really shouldn't be a performance version. And this bike, for as heavy as it is, with the 800cc engine, it's fast enough, and I don't know that anybody else could really do that. So this is where we end up. 1988, 98, 99, they have the Vulcan, okay? They have this bike, and some product genius says, we can turn this into something really cool and really retro. And they made this bike with skirted fenders, all blacked out, using the same engine. They really didn't have to change a lot of stuff. And they made what would become the Drifter. I can't remember what the name of it was. I don't think it was Drifter. But I guess they took it to some, trade show or something. People just, went bonkers over it. And the bosses at Kawasaki said, yeah, man, let's do it, So this bike came out. I would never call this an Indian. There's plenty of kits and maybe not so much anymore, because this bike is, 23, 24 years old. But it used to be you could get a whole bunch of badging and other goofy stuff to, make it an Indian. And I think that's just as silly as people taking an LS V8 and making it look like a big block Chevy or a 409 or a wide block Ford or something like that. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, this is a Kawasaki, and I'm going to tell everybody it's Kawasaki. It's a tribute. It's a tribute to what Indian was, because at the time there really wasn't any Indian. And that changed really fast, and that's what I alluded to earlier when we were talking about legal issues, because the Indian name, there's T-shirts you can get that say, 1953, end of story kind of stuff for Indian. But the Indian name's been dragged through the mud several times, and it's also had a lot of people that really meant well, like Floyd Clymer, that was an Indian racer and loved Indian and tried to, resurrect the brand in the 60s, but unfortunately he died before he could do anything with it. And they put their badge on many bikes and, all kind, whatever. They just stuck Indian on whatever, trying to sell it. At the time, there was a company called CMC. I think it was California Motorcycle Company. They did not like this bike because what they were building was a like aftermarket frame. I think was of their design, like a Softail type frame with like an S&S engine, which is awesome, but it's a Harley engine. It's not an Indian. And they're putting skirted fenders on it and saying, hey, we own the Indian brand. And they did. They're trying to keep these guys from making these kind of bikes. And there were others too. I think Harley sued Honda for the Shadow American Classic Edition. I think what it boiled down to, and I don't know what case ended what, but I think what it boiled down to is the judge said, hey, if you go back into the early days of motorcycling, there were a lot of different brands, and a lot of them had skirted fenders. And if you're going to say, you own the right to, kind of streamlining, kind of integrated styling, yeah, that's not going to happen. Anyway, let's talk about what's different about this bike right here. This did not come on this drifter. This is an actual Harley Davidson part, so I paid a fortune for it. Haha. It's a Lucas accessory light, and it would have been on an Indian or a Harley or whatever you wanted. Lucas, the Prince of Darkness, but it's just a kind of a guide lamp, I guess you would say. I'd seen a lot of old Indians that had that on there. It kind of looked right. The white wall tires, definitely not on this bike. I kind of had a theme for it, and it's kind of based on a visit I had with an old timer that I'll talk about in a minute. I figured, somebody had this bike. It was 41. It's all blacked out. Had black wall tires. Couldn't get tires. Came back from the war and, got some new tires. Wanted to dress it up. Hey, put some fancy white walls on it. Whenever he did. I think it makes some good contrast. And like I said, these rims were chrome. The prototype that the Kawasaki marketing genius made, they were black. So I think he made had a good idea to make them black. So I made mine black. This right here, the Mexican blanket, that's kind of an old hot rod trick. If you've seen, Deuce Coupe or something like that. Of course, I picked a blue one, to kind of go with the light blue that we got here. Seat was starting to get kind of raggedy. Remember, this is a 2000, so this is pretty old, in 2023. So I could get it recovered, and I might, and if I do, I'll get it like in saddle tan or something like that. To make it look a little more retro. But hey, Mexican blankets are kind of cheap and they're cool. I mean, the geometric pattern here, it's just perfect. I mean, you got black, you got blue, you got a little bit of white. It just fits on it so well. The thing you got to do if you want to do this, I pulled in a gas station and I got people running up to me. Where'd you get that seat cover and all that? I'm like, it's a staple gun and a Mexican blanket, man. Scotch-Brite. You got to do that because otherwise, you're gonna get wet and see, it's not pulled in really tight. But it's been on there for years, man, and it still looks good. I'm talking probably 4 years. It's been on there. So that's kind of a little custom trick if you want to do that. These saddlebags, they are just beat to heck because I didn't take care of them. And you're going to look at this bike and say, this thing is filthy. You must not love this at all. Well, that's not the case. This bike loves me. I've had 2 new vehicles in my life, and I'm in my 50s, and I've had vehicles since I was, 14, something like that. This is the second vehicle that I've ever had. I had a, original Dakota 88. They ended up putting a 318 in. I don't know. We may do an episode about that. That's a pretty cool truck that I had. But this is the only other new vehicle that I ever had. And I will tell you what. And again, I'm biased. I love Kawasaki. This thing, it's never caused me a problem. I mean, I take the most basic care of it. Put tires and brakes and oil and whatever it needs on there, and it just goes and goes and goes. I was on a date with my wife, had pouring rain, I mean, just like flash flood conditions, up to the floorboards. And this thing just putted right along, no problem. It's a really, really good machine. I'll probably never get rid of it. But the funny thing is, I didn't want it at the time. What I really, really wanted was an Excelsior Henderson. And if you've not heard of that, it's a good story. Seek that out on the internet. Maybe one day I'll get an Excelsior Henderson, but I'm not getting rid of this thing. It takes me where we want to go, and it gets like 55 miles a gallon. I know that is nothing these days, but it's pretty good when you got my old hot rods that get like 3 gallons to the mile or something. I will say they did a pretty good job with integrating a lot of the legal requirements with these reflectors and stuff, and kind of making it look retro. You got the skirter fenders, the bumpers. I mean, the cool thing is about these fenders, they're not steel, which I guess sucks in some ways, but they're not gonna rust. But they're not laid up fiberglass either. They're I think they're SMC, sheet molded compound. They're not carbon fiber or anything, but I believe that's what they are. The exhaust on this thing, it's kind of a poser unit, really. These are really just big covers on here. The exhaust pipes are much, much smaller, and it's got a bunch of heat shields and stuff on it. It's set up pretty good. It got kind of almost like a fishtail kind of setup on here, which I wouldn't really identify with Indian, but it looks good on here. It looks appropriate, I guess, for the era. The thing when I got it was so quiet, and I guess it's okay. But the other funny thing is, my wife was riding on this, and I don't know, foot got in a cramp or something like that, and she put her foot on the pipe, and it's still there. You can't really see it, but there's kind of like a burn mark where she burned a boot on there. But that was like the first blemish on this thing. And it's got a lot more, man. It's got dents. I mean, my second oldest wanted to get around it and thought he could squeeze in between it on the kickstand side, pushed it over, knocked a big old dent in the tank. I obviously was not very happy about that, but, I've caused just as many damages and just stuff from age. These are duct taped on here because the rubber rotted away. Something fell on the top of this one. I was moving it, cracked the headlight bucket. But, so what? I mean, I remember working at a place, and they had a guy came out, and it was filthy. It was still fairly new, and one of the guys was like, "Oh man, it looks cool dirty. It looks like you've been riding through the desert or something like that." And I don't get it dirty for no reason. I just ride it because I like it. Talk a little bit about the engineering behind it. This is a 800cc engine, It's a V-twin, and it's kind of unique because a lot of the Japanese V-twins, they wanted the look, they wanted the market, but you know, I think they're very practical, and there's nothing wrong with that. Maybe they just didn't want to copy Harley Davidson. I don't know, but regardless, Harley Davidson is a single crank pin engine. That's why you get the, kind of chug, potato, whatever you want to call it, sound. And if you got like a Honda V-twin or something like that, it doesn't have that because it's got a split crank pin, which eliminates the vibration, but it also eliminates the sound that you have. Well, this is a single crank pin engine. If you're talking about a V-twin, the further apart you go, the smoother it gets. So Harley Davidson's a 45. I think Indian was a 42 degree. This is a 55. So it definitely has the sound. And let's check that out. It's one of the things I liked about it. Probably not very efficient, but who cares? It's cool. So you get that kind of chug sound, as you can hear. And I've knocked part of the baffle out of this thing to make it a little louder. It's definitely not loud. It ain't loud like my Sportster. My Sportster's got 1 3/4 straight pipes on it, and it will wake the dead. This is not that loud. This thing sounds cool when you're sitting at a stoplight, but when you rev it up, you can tell it's overhead cam engine. If you listen right here, that don't sound like any Harley right there. It's definitely got a higher RPM potential than the Harley does, but it is not fast. Okay, this is a heavy bike. It's not made to be a hot rod or anything, but it'll get along in traffic. It does a great job. It's hard for me to knock it. Again, I'm biased, but these things, they did something that I know Honda hates, is putting the gauges down low. I mean, Honda's, not Volvo, but they're kind of a lot about safety. So, like, if you look at the bike of the era, the American Classic Edition Shadow, they got the gauges up here. They just did not want to put this, tank dash, like a Harley has, that, Indian had too. And, Kawasaki said, yeah, let's do it, So, I mean, you got, white letters on a black dial. I mean, they had the old indicator lights. This is the same deal as the dash that I have on my Sport Bob tank on my Harley. It's, you're straddling the fence saying, did they copy or not? I don't know. I still want to say it's a tribute. This is a water-cooled engine, and I think they did a marvelous job of hiding the radiator. If you can see here, they kind of took the down tubes and kind of like forked them out in the front. I don't know if you can see that really well. But instead of having, like it going a Y or a single down tube, they kind of split it out. And they hid the radiator in that pocket. And it looks pretty good because, it looks like an old air-cooled engine. I mean, the dead giveaway for any Asian bike to me, and I don't know why they just don't give up on this, is this whole ribbon-welded flange on here. I mean, no Harley has that. And if they just get rid of that, it would probably take them a little bit further into the realm of, I guess, tribute, kind of looking like what they want to be. The other thing I got on here, I got a K&N filter in here. Like I said, I got the white wall tires. Trying to think of anything else that I threw on here that is not original. See, I never really had to do a whole lot of work to this bike. The horn. Yeah, that's the stock horn on this thing was about 1/2 the diameter of this, and it sounded like, meep meep. I mean, it was like the the Little Nash Rambler from the song, and not in any cool way you could ever imagine. It was awful. So what I have on here is a Chinese copy of a Harley Springer horn, and it, as my dad said, it sounds like a Model A. So it's sort of it's still kind of a higher pitch, but it's definitely seems more appropriate. And I don't know if that's what our Harley Springer horn sounds like, but it's a lot cooler than the one that was on here, and it kind of it fits it, because it's definitely from that interwar period that this bike should have. I just got this thing put back together. I'm do put some miles on it. I don't ride it as much as I'd like to, but it's definitely super comfortable. Right now it's got, let's just say, almost 30,000 miles on it. I mean, that's not a whole lot for a 23-year-old bike, but it's, if I'd worked closer to home, I'd ride it all the time because I love it. It is so fun, and I will tell you, the parts are cheap. If you got an opportunity to find one, they're out there. Pick one up, because I think one day they're kind of going to be, something that maybe not a collector's item, but it's going to be something that's a little more desirable, and that's my prediction. Again, I'm biased, but hey, check them out. They're fun and they're really comfortable, and I'm no giant, but I'm no pygmy either. But I've had friends smaller than me and friends bigger than me get on it, and they're all comfortable. So it's kind of an odd duck in that way, that the ergonomics are set up to where, if you're 6'6" or you're 5'5", you can put your feet down, or you don't feel like a monkey getting amorous with the football. So it's a cool machine. So check them out. Well, hey, I hope you enjoyed that one. I sure like this old bike. Ride it quite a bit, and definitely, if you get a chance to check one out, I think you should. They're pretty neat, and they're very reliable. So hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Do that homework as always. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Tell me what you think, what you want to see. Anything you want to put up there, that's great. I always respond, and we'll keep it coming. We'll check you out next time when we dare to be different once again on Smith Motorworks. Later.